The video lasted less than 30 seconds. No pads, no defenders, no pressure rushing in from the edge. Just a young man, a football, and an arm that looked like it was built in a laboratory by scientists who had studied every elite quarterback in NFL history and combined their greatest physical attributes into a single human being. The clip hit social media on a Thursday afternoon, and by Friday morning, it had been viewed millions of times. Fans were losing their minds. Analysts were pausing, rewinding, pausing again. Former NFL quarterbacks were commenting. The reaction was immediate, overwhelming, and completely divided. One half of the internet screaming that this was the birth of a superstar, and the other half screaming that off-season workout videos mean absolutely nothing, and this kid still has everything to prove. But here's the thing that nobody is talking about. The workout clip isn't the real story. The workout clip is just the surface. What's happening underneath it, in the weight room, on the practice field, inside the Cleveland Browns facility during the dead of winter when cameras aren't rolling and the only people watching are coaches who are now saying the words elite playmaking ability about a fifth-round pick they can't stop thinking about. That is the real story. And it is so much bigger, so much more emotional, and so much more important than 30 seconds of viral video will ever be able to capture. Stay right here. We are going all the way inside the making of the NFL's next potential superstar. Before we talk about what Shedeur Sanders is doing this offseason, before we talk about the clips that are breaking the internet, before we talk about what his new head coach said about him at the Combine that made every single person in that press conference sit up straight in their chair, we have to go back to the beginning. All the way back, because the story of Shedeur Sanders is not a simple story. It is not the story of a talented quarterback who got drafted high, found his footing, and started winning games. It is the story of a young man who was systematically, brutally, and in the eyes of many, unjustly knocked down, not once, not twice, but over and over and over again, and who kept getting back up every single time. And now, heading into the most important season of his young career, with viral workout clips flooding social media, with a new head coach whispering the word elite in his direction, and with an entire city of Cleveland football fans daring, for the first time in what feels like forever, to actually believe, the story of Shedeur Sanders is building toward a crescendo that the NFL has not seen coming and is not fully prepared for. It started at Jackson State. Shedeur Sanders did not follow the traditional path to NFL stardom. He did not go to Alabama. He did not go to Ohio State. He did not go to Georgia. He went to Jackson State, a historically black college in Mississippi, where his father, the legendary Deion Sanders, was the head coach. And before anyone had a chance to see what he could do on a football field, the narrative was already being written for him. Son of a famous father, playing for his father's team, protected from real competition, the product of nepotism rather than genuine talent. That narrative was wrong. Completely, demonstrably, statistically wrong. Shedeur Sanders.
Jackson State was not a charity project. He was a player tearing apart every defense he faced, posting numbers that scouts who covered the SWAC could not ignore, developing the pocket presence and accuracy and football intelligence that would eventually make NFL general managers pay attention, even if they were reluctant to admit it publicly. He was building something real. He just wasn't getting credit for it yet. Then came Colorado. Deion Sanders took his coaching staff and his vision for transforming a program to Boulder, and Shedeur came with him. And suddenly the whole country was watching. The Colorado Buffaloes became must-see television. The Deion effect, Primetime's personality, his showmanship, his unapologetic belief in his own greatness translated directly to his program, turned a struggling program into a national phenomenon overnight. And at the center of it all, throwing the football, reading defenses, taking hits from pass rushers who had been ignoring the Buffaloes for years and were now desperately trying to remind the world that Colorado was still a soft program, was Shedeur Sanders, and he was spectacular. His performance helped the Colorado Buffaloes make it to the Associated Press's end-of-season top 25 poll for the first time since 2016. Dayton Hibari too. He did that. Him, with his arm, his decision-making, his poise under pressure, and his refusal to play small in the biggest moments. By the time his final college season ended, every major draft analyst in the country had him ranked as a first-round quarterback. Many had him in the top 5. Some had him going in the top 3. The narrative had shifted completely, from beneficiary of nepotism to legitimate NFL prospect. The tape was undeniable. The production was real. The talent was there for anyone with eyes to see it. And then came the pre-draft process, the combine, the formal interviews, the weeks of evaluation, where NFL franchises decide not just whether they want a player on their team, but whether they want that player's personality, culture, energy, and everything that comes with him in their locker room for the next decade. And that is where everything unraveled. When the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft began, perhaps the biggest question of the night was where Shedeur Sanders would be selected. Would he go 3rd overall? Would the Steelers take him in the mid-20s? Even if he didn't go in the first round, the general belief was that he was the second-best quarterback in the class and would certainly be a day 2 pick at the latest. NBC News. Instead, what happened over those 3 agonizing days in Green Bay, Wisconsin, was one of the most painful and surreal events in modern NFL draft history. Round after round passed, team after team passed. Quarterback after quarterback, players with smaller profiles, lower ceilings, and less impressive college tape heard their names called, and Shedeur Sanders kept sitting there, waiting, watching. His father, Deion Sanders, watching from the family draft room with an expression that cycled between expectation, confusion, disbelief, and a quiet, dignified fury. Even a prank call orchestrated by the son of an Atlanta Falcons coach hit during the chaos, and at one point, former President Donald Trump weighed in publicly, turning what should have been a celebration into a 3-day national spectacle of cruelty and confusion. The Cleveland Browns finally called his name with the 144th overall pick, the 5th round. He was the 6th quarterback selected in the entire draft. NBC News. 144th. A player who had been discussed for months as a potential franchise cornerstone for whoever was lucky enough to draft him in the top 5. Going 144th? The reaction was immediate and enormous. Supporters were furious, convinced that the NFL had conspired, consciously or unconsciously, to punish Shedeur for being too confident, too black, too Sanders, too himself. Critics felt vindicated, arguing that the pre-draft process had simply exposed the truth about a prospect who was never as good as the hype suggested. Reports emerged that Shedeur had been removed from at least 3 team draft boards entirely, with team owners personally ordering his removal because of concerns about his attitude during the interview process. Yahoo Sports. The debate about what really happened, whether it was football evaluation or something far more personal and cultural, is still being argued today, and it will probably be argued for years. But here is what happened next, and this is the part of the Shedeur Sanders story that doesn't get told enough. After the draft, after the humiliation, after the prank calls and the viral reactions and the commentary from every former player and pundit who had an opinion to share, Shedeur Sanders reported to Cleveland, put his head down, and went to work. Aside from a pair of speeding incidents in June, Sanders had done everything right since his stunning fall. He turned heads at rookie minicamp and OTAs and was emerging as the frontrunner to win the Browns' starting quarterback job, impressive for a 5th-round pick. Pro Football Network. The man who was described as entitled and difficult in anonymous pre-draft reports was showing up to the facility every day, grinding through practice, building relationships with teammates, and behaving like someone who understood completely that the world was watching and that every single action was being evaluated against a narrative that had already been written about him. And then the workout footage started dropping. The first video came from Miami, where Sanders had traveled to work with his private trainer, Daryl Colbert. Footage from his training session in Florida showed Shedeur working with his trainer at a high school facility in Miami, and the throws were immediately described by observers as NFL caliber.
Glory, Colorado, clean mechanics. Easy release.
Pinpoint accuracy, threading passes to spots on the field with the kind of consistency that you simply cannot fake in an open field workout. One analysis noted that all the noise around Sanders, the speeding tickets, the social media takes, the questions about mentorship, had suddenly gotten a lot quieter the moment that Miami footage appeared. Glory, Colorado, because football cuts through everything. When the arm is right, when the mechanics are clean, when the ball is going where it's supposed to get there, at the velocity it's supposed to get there, the story stops being about personality and starts being about talent. And Shedeur Sanders' talent on that Florida field in the July heat was impossible to dismiss. Then more clips came. Fans watching early workout footage noted that Sanders featured a repeatable, easy motion that does not require too much wind-up from the arm raising to release. A technically sound, efficient throwing motion that analysts described as a good sign for long-term development. Pro Football Network, the mechanics were clean, the footwork was grounded, the upper and lower body separation that generates real velocity on NFL throws, the thing that separates quarterbacks who look great in shorts from quarterbacks who can actually make NFL-level throws under pressure, was all there. ESPN Cleveland shared 4 clips from one particular throwing session, showing Sanders working through his arm strength, and the reaction was immediate. Browns Nation, social media caught fire. Fans responded with a passion that reflected how deep the emotional investment in this young man runs. Shedeur has been completely locked in. Let's go get the #1 QB spot, one wrote. Get it, nephew. God built you for this. Keep showing love and being consistent. Nothing but love this way, another posted. Pro Football Network. A new video then surfaced showing Sanders bench pressing at the University of Colorado facility, where he was working out alongside Browns wide receiver Gage Larvadain, a teammate who had built a real connection with Shedeur during his rookie year and continued training with him through the offseason. Heavy sports. The physical improvement was visible. The body looked different, more powerful, more refined. The body of a professional athlete who understands that year 2 in the NFL demands a different level of physical preparation than anything he encountered in college or even in his rookie season. The clip divided social media immediately. Brother putting up high school numbers in the NFL acting tough, one critic wrote. But the support was just as loud. Look at the hurt losers. You lost. Shedeur is QB1, a supporter fired back. Heavy sports. That divide, that absolute, passionate, total division in the way people react to everything Shedeur Sanders does is itself a story. Because no other player in the NFL right now generates this kind of heat, this kind of intensity, this kind of reaction to a workout video. And that intensity, love it or hate it, is the signature of a player whose story matters, a player whose career carries weight beyond the statistics and the wins and losses.
One particularly humanizing moment came just days before his official NFL training camp debut, when a viral video surfaced showing Sanders working behind the counter at a drive-thru window in a Cleveland area restaurant, wearing a Browns cap, handing out food orders, and engaging warmly with surprised customers who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Browns Nation. It was the human side of Shedeur Sanders, the side that his critics in the pre-draft process said didn't exist, the side that the anonymous sources who called him entitled apparently never encountered. A quarterback who could be the starting player of an NFL franchise, standing in a drive-thru, connecting with fans, making people smile, becoming part of the community in Cleveland in the most unexpected and authentic way possible. The reaction to that clip reflected exactly what it was. Fans were impressed by his approachability and genuine effort to connect with the local community. And the consensus was clear that Shedeur isn't simply focused on making the team, he's working to build lasting connections that extend well beyond the football field. But here is where the offseason story of Shedeur Sanders takes its most important and explosive turn. Because it is not just fans and social media who are reacting to what they are seeing from him this offseason. The most important voice in any athlete's professional development, his head coach, has been watching. And what that head coach has said publicly about Shedeur Sanders has sent a message to the entire NFL that something genuinely significant is happening in Cleveland. Todd Monken is not a casual observer. He is one of the most accomplished offensive coaches in the game. He spent 3 seasons as the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator, where his quarterback was Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP, arguably the most dynamic player in the NFL. And Monken built an entire offense around Jackson's specific skills, winning games and creating touchdowns in ways that opposing defenses simply couldn't prepare for. Last word on NFL. When a man of that caliber looks at a quarterback and uses specific, careful, deliberate language to describe what he sees, you pay attention. And what Monken said at the 2026 NFL Combine, standing at a podium in Indianapolis, surrounded by reporters waiting to hear how he would characterize the young quarterback at the center of his biggest offseason question, was not careful or hedging or politically neutral. Monken said, "I think what you see is elite playmaking ability. That's in him. You've seen it, we've seen it, you saw it in college, you saw it on tape last year. Sure, there's a ways to go, but what first-year player doesn't have a long way to go? So I'm excited to get started with him." CBSSports.com. Elite. He used that word about Shedeur Sanders, the 5th-round pick who was removed from 3-team draft boards a year ago, who was called entitled and difficult, who was the 144th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. His new head coach, a man who has worked with Lamar Jackson, a man who knows what elite quarterback play actually looks like, used the word elite to describe Shedeur Sanders' ability. Let the weight of that sit for a moment, because in a league that is perpetually uncomfortable giving this young man his flowers, that is a statement. That is a declaration. That is a man with credibility and authority stepping to a microphone and telling the world, "I have watched this kid. I have studied his tape. I have seen what he can do, and what I see is elite."
Monken was even asked directly, "Can Sanders be the starter?" His answer was unambiguous. "Sure he can." CBSSports.com. 2 words, no hesitation, no qualifier. Sure he can. From the man who will make the final decision on who lines up behind center for the Cleveland Browns in Week 1 of the 2026 NFL season. Monken also noted something that speaks directly to the off-season workout clips and the buzz around Sanders' preparation. He acknowledged that Sanders has been a constant presence in the Browns facility during the winter months. Monken told reporters at the annual league meeting that Shedeur Sanders has been in the building a lot over the last few months, working out, while noting that Dillon Gabriel, as far as he was aware, had not been doing the same. The big lead. That contrast matters enormously. When a head coach, publicly, at a league-wide press conference, points out that one of his quarterbacks is showing up and another is not, that is not a neutral statement. That is a power ranking expressed in the language of commitment and dedication rather than the language of statistics. And Shedeur Sanders is on top of that ranking right now. Analysts who have been following the situation closely note that Sanders has been taking well to what Monken's coaching staff is already drilling the quarterbacks on, an offense built around precision movement and efficient footwork that rewards quarterbacks with accuracy and the ability to get the ball out of their hands quickly, much like the system Monken built around Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Last word on NFL. The connection between that system and what Shedeur Sanders does naturally as a quarterback is not accidental. Monken brought Travis Switzer with him from Baltimore specifically to implement offensive concepts that will create opportunities for layered window throws, passes that require anticipation, timing, and the kind of accuracy that scouts who watched Shedeur's college tape consistently praised even as they raised questions about other aspects of his game. Last word on NFL. The offense is being built, at least in part, with Shedeur Sanders' specific tools in mind. Whether Monken will admit that openly is another matter, but the alignment between what this coaching staff is installing and what this quarterback does best is impossible to ignore. Those inside the Browns locker room who have noticed a difference in Sanders' energy and demeanor this offseason have described him as treating his rise to the starting position not as a question, but as an inevitability. Approaching every workout, every film session, every interaction with coaches as a man who is not competing for a job, but claiming one. Last word on NFL.
That mindset shift from the uncertain, overwhelmed rookie who arrived as QB3 on a team that had drafted Dylan Gabriel ahead of him to the incumbent starter whose new head coach is publicly praising his elite ability while noting that he's the one showing up is the most important development in the entire Shedeur Sanders story. And it is happening right now, in real time, fueled by off-season workouts that are going viral and a head coach who keeps using words that nobody expected to hear about a fifth-round pick from last year's draft. Browns owner Jimmy Haslam confirmed at the NFL annual meeting in Phoenix that Sanders' off-season work has been outstanding, saying, "His body looks better. I think he's been working hard. So I think it's hard for a lot of college kids to understand what it takes to play in the NFL, and particularly at quarterback. I think Shedeur got an education in that, and my instincts are he'll come back ready to play." Pro Football Network. Ready to play. From the owner of the franchise, the same man who 1 year ago was publicly calling the Deshaun Watson trade a swing and a miss, now looking at Shedeur Sanders' off-season preparation and saying his instincts tell him the young man is ready. The energy in Cleveland around this quarterback has shifted. The doubt is not gone. It will never be fully gone until Sanders strings together wins in the NFL regular season, but the energy has shifted. The belief is growing. And the off-season workout clips, those 30-second videos that are generating millions of views and thousands of reactions, are not just football content. They are evidence. Evidence of a young man who took the worst professional experience of his life, being projected as a top pick and falling to 144, and turned it into fuel.
Browns insider Mary Kay Cabot gave Shedeur a 60% chance of winning the starting quarterback competition, and her reasoning was pointed. If it comes down to Deshaun versus Shedeur, there's going to be a lot of sentiment to go with the player you finished last season with and showed what Todd Monken described as elite playmaking ability. Heavy sports. 60%. The incumbent. The man who finished the season as the starter. The man whose new head coach watched his tape and called what he saw elite. Against the 30-year-old coming off 2 Achilles surgeries who has played just 19 games in 5 Cleveland seasons. When you lay it out like that, 60% feels almost conservative. But this story is not just about the quarterback competition. It is not just about whether Shedeur beats out Watson. It is not just about those workout clips or those bench press videos or the drive-through moment or the jersey number change back to number 2. The number he wore at Jackson State, the number he wore at Colorado, the number his personal brand, Too Legendary, was built around, the number that represents who he was before the NFL tried to tell him who he wasn't. This story is about something bigger than all of that. It is about what it means to survive the NFL's most public rejection and come back stronger. It is about what it means to be a young, gifted, confident black quarterback in a league that has historically been deeply uncomfortable with that specific combination of qualities. It is about what it means to be Deshaun Sanders' son, to carry that name, that legacy, that pressure, that judgment, and to find a way to turn all of it into a competitive advantage rather than a burden. Inside the Browns building, coaches note that Sanders is already tightening his footwork, making sure his base is set before releasing, which will improve the already solid accuracy he displayed during his rookie season. Last word on NFL. Among 43 players with at least 150 dropbacks in 2025, Sanders finished 10th in yards per completion, showing that when he found his receiver, he was consistently moving the chains and making explosive plays. Fox Sports. The big play ability is real. The arm is real. The instincts are real. What needs to develop, and what the evidence suggests is developing right now in these off-season workouts and these facility sessions and these film studies with a new coaching staff that was drawn to this quarterback before they even had a chance to coach him, is the consistency, the decision-making, the ability to manage a game instead of just playing within moments.
Those are things that come with experience, with better coaching, with better weapons, and with the kind of offensive structure that Monken has spent a career building for his quarterbacks.
The Browns finished 5-12 last season and ranked 31st in points per game. Fox Sports. That is the team Shedeur Sanders is walking back into. Not a contender, not a roster built to win now, but a franchise with elite defensive talent, led by Myles Garrett, one of the greatest edge rushers in the sport, and a new head coach who knows how to score points and build quarterback confidence from the ground up. Haslam made clear that the final decision rests entirely with Monken, and that it will be made purely on merit. Todd will make that decision, and I assure you he's going to go on who can win the most games first. Pro Football Network. Win games. That's the only criterion that matters. And everything about the way Shedeur Sanders is approaching this offseason, the facility time, the workout clips, the body transformation, the relationship building with teammates and coaches, the jersey number change, the gift to Monken, the drive-through appearances for Cleveland fans, says that he is a young man who has decided that he is done waiting for permission to be great. He is going to take this job. He is going to earn this starting role. And when the 2026 season begins and Shedeur Sanders runs out of that tunnel at Huntington Bank Field as the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback, he is going to prove to every team owner who removed his name from their draft board, to every anonymous scout who called him entitled, to every pundit who said his fall to the 5th round was deserved, that they were wrong. All of them. Completely and totally wrong. The clips are just the beginning. The workout videos are just the surface. What is really happening in Berea, Ohio right now is the construction of something, the making of a starting NFL quarterback, the remaking of a narrative that the NFL tried to write for Shedeur Sanders and that Shedeur Sanders has decided to rewrite for himself. The next chapter of this story gets written when OTAs begin, then training camp, then preseason, then week 1. And when it does, when Shedeur Sanders lines up under center for the Cleveland Browns with the number 2 on his back, with Todd Monken calling the plays, with his elite playmaking ability on full display for 60,000 fans who have been waiting their entire adult lives for a quarterback to believe in, the NFL's next big superstar story will have arrived. Not with a first-round pick, not with a massive signing bonus, not with a coronation, but with a chip on his shoulder the size of a draft board that should have had his name on it much, much earlier, and a work ethic that is making the entire football world take notice, one viral workout clip at a time.